Welcome to IU Sports Media. I'm Brittnee Gilbert. For the second year in a row, Oakland will be without their starting quarterback. Yesterday, the Raiders learned that Derek Carr will be out at least 2 weeks after suffering a back fracture in Sunday's loss at Denver. Welcome to IU Sports. I'm Brittnee Gilbert. Well, the Colts had hoped that a win in Houston last week would be a turning point in their season, and it looked like it would be today as they faced the Steelers until the fourth quarter. Welcome to IU Sports Media. I'm Brittnee Gilbert. Bloomington will play host to one of the biggest college soccer games of the year tomorrow, as second-ranked Indiana hosts fourth-ranked Notre Dame at Bill Armstrong Stadium. On Friday, the Hoosiers demolished Rutgers 5-0, moving their overall record to 6-0-2 on the season. I think IU Grand Park is kind of home away from home for them. Up in Westfield, Indiana, it's about hour and a half away from Bloomington, so you're going to have a good fan base for IU. But at the same time, Ohio State fans, I expect to travel well. So it is a neutral site, but really I think IU will still have more fans there, and it'll almost feel like a home field advantage. And I think, again, with Penn State, Ohio State this weekend, whoever wins that game, as we both said, will go on to the Big Ten Championship. But then I think whoever wins this game will also find themselves potentially in the Final Four for the college playoff. Well, on Friday, Archie Miller called his team soft after they were beaten in their first game of the season by the Indiana State Sycamores. Not the way they wanted to start the Miller era. Welcome to IU Sports Media. I'm Brittnee Gilbert. Alabama has dominated the SEC this decade, but there's one team that has gotten the best of them lately. The Tide host Ole Miss this weekend, and the Rebels have beaten Alabama 2 out of the last 3 years. Welcome to IU Sports Media. I'm Brittnee Gilbert. The Patriots hosted the Falcons in a Super Bowl rematch this past Sunday, and the Patriots walked away victorious again, winning 23-7. For me, I think 2 teams stood out, and they were Ohio State and Wisconsin. If you start with Ohio State, they demolished Nebraska 56-14, and I think that scoreline speaks enough for itself. But then moving on to Wisconsin, I do think they had another good week, but also we need to consider their schedule. I definitely think IU's coming off a closer game than anyone expected between Penn State. I mean, they took this to overtime with 34 shots on goal before they could finally get the win. So I think some adjustments IU needs to make is just put the ball in the back of the net. I mean, they have the offensive power this year to do it. So just finish their chances and they'll be fine against Ohio State. Carr had an MVP caliber season last year, but it was cut short due to a fractured leg. The Raiders are currently 2-2 on the season, and they host the Baltimore Ravens this Sunday. And I think going off of that, I also see this week Ohio State and Penn State. Whoever wins that one, I think, will be in the Big Ten Championship. But then also on the other side, I think Wisconsin, as I mentioned, has a pretty simple, consistent schedule going through that'll be pretty easy, but they'll be in the Big Ten Championship too. Alabama boasts a trio of running backs that may be the best in the country. But Nick Saban's defense will have to face a challenging Ole Miss passing game that has given them trouble in past matchups. The 2 teams match up on ESPN in primetime with kickoff scheduled for 9 Eastern. First possession of the second half, Brissett with another long hookup. This one goes to Chester Rogers on a 61-yard touchdown, his first touchdown in the NFL, and the Colts are on top 17-3. Now over to some Purdue ball. Purdue Pete and the Boilers are hosting Chicago State. Purdue dominates start to finish. Carson Edwards has a pretty crossover that leads to the layup. He led the way with 25 for the Boilermakers.